2023. And I'm quite excited to be here again. We're going to start in a few minutes from now. And in about 2 minutes from now, we'll be starting. All right. So like I said earlier, it's good to actually have you here. I am particularly excited to be here because of our guest for today. I mean, I've had like some conversations with him, and I am happy that I'm meeting him here on this platform once again. Yes, I am Aranimi or Aramide for Lauren Shaw, and I'm your host for tonight. Welcome to the MSME Africa Business Growth Series, the very first edition for the year 2023. So to begin with, okay, I can see Mr. Sheye there. I can see. To begin with, we would have our opening remarks, which will be done by the founder and CEO of MSME Africa, the one and only super amazing Mr. Sheye Olurotimi. Can we have you, sir? Good evening, Mr. Sheye.
Good evening, Aramide, and good evening, everyone. It's such a delight to be here again and to welcome us to the very first edition of MSME Business Growth Series, the very first edition for 2023. Can everybody hear me clearly, please?
Awesome. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm more than excited because of the guest that we have today. I mean, I've been following Dr. Muda Yusuf for some time. If I'm not seeing him on channels, I'm seeing things about him in the newspaper. He's always talking about the economy, about policies, about things around entrepreneurship. And it was the immediate past DG of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And to show that he has passion really for private enterprises, he went on to start the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprises. So I want to assure everyone who is on this call that you're going to have a good time. We're going to have a lot of insight into 2023. People are already asking what's going to be the effect of the election on the economy. What about the inflation? What about the Forex crisis and every other thing? Subsidy is going to go at the end of June and a couple of other things. So I just want to say, sit back and relax and have a good time. And if you're wondering what MSME Africa is all about, is a platform for news, information, resources, and tools for micro, small, and medium enterprises. This is what we do. I will take a lot of delight in providing tools and resources for small and micro, small, and medium enterprises to help them grow and thrive. So I'll hand over back to Aranimi as she continues the session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sheye. Thank you for that opening remarks. And yes, I'll move on to introducing our guest. But before I do that, I want to give some information. Please note that we would be having a question and answer segment after the presentation by the guest. And you can drop your questions in the chat box, or you can also use the raise hand option if you choose to speak directly. Thank you so much. So, I mean, like Mr. Sheye said, because I feel like, why do I feel like Mr. Sheye copied from my notes? Anyways, because, I mean, we're at a time when the world is faced with a number of global economic crises. We speak of high rates of inflation. We speak of a lingering COVID-19 pandemic, Forex crisis, and all. So it is quite expedient that we look at a way forward for businesses and for entrepreneurs. That's why tonight we're talking about the 2023 Business and Economic Outlook for entrepreneurs and business owners. And to take us on this conversation is Dr. Muda Yusuf. He's the immediate past Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's an economist and has contributed immensely to the national economic discourse through his research-based analysis of government policies as they affect various sectors of the economy. He is currently the founder and CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, which is an NGO committed to free enterprise and private sector development. Dr. Yusuf obtained a bachelor's and master's degree in economics from the University of Ilorin, Nigeria, and the University of Lagos, Nigeria, respectively. I think I should put a stop to that and just, okay, he has participated in numerous high-level public policy advocacy dialogues at both the federal and state levels with the aim of fostering a conducive environment for private sector development in the Nigerian economy. So I'm going to put a stop to that now, and I invite Dr. Yusuf to give us his presentation for the next 40 minutes. Good to have you, sir. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome, sir.
And good evening to Mr. Sheye and all our very distinguished participants. And let me say Happy New Year to everyone. It's not late. We are still in January.
Yes, thank you. Same to you.
Yeah. So we will have a very brief interaction. I'll try to make it as brief as possible on the outlook for the economy, for business, and what businesses can also do, to navigate all the various challenges, headwinds, landmines, all sorts of issues around the economic and the business environment. So let me see if I'll be able to share my slides so that we can proceed from there. Okay, I will, the outline is as stated on the screen. I hope everyone can see the screen.
Yes, I want to believe so, sir.
Okay, I'll be looking at contextual issues. Business does not take place in a vacuum. So we'll be looking at the context in which businesses are taking place, because many times it is the context that shapes the outcomes in the investment environment. So the context in which businesses take place is a very critical part of this conversation. We're looking at the global economic outlook. What is happening globally? The fiscal policy outlook, what is happening to our fiscal operations, and what are the implications for us as businesses. We're looking at monetary and credit issues. A lot is happening in that space. Only yesterday, the central bank concluded its first monetary policy committee meeting with a number of resolutions around issues of money and credits, and of course, also interest rates. We review the macroeconomic issues. We look at business resilience strategies. What strategies can businesses deploy to be able to cope with all these issues around businesses and the economy? We're looking at the fiscal operations of governments. Look at factors that are disrupting the business environment. And we look at scenario planning imperative for presidential election. Of course, we are in a transition year, and it is imperative for us to also be looking at some scenarios. Scenarios, if party A wins, if party B wins, what will the economy look like? That's the whole essence of the scenario planning. Contextual issues, global economic environment, macroeconomic context, monetary policy, credit conditions, the political economy, the investment climate, political environment, regulatory context. These are broad spectrum of the context in which businesses operate. The global economic outlook, of course, there are still challenges in the global economy. Global economy is still struggling to recover. Just as we are getting out of the pandemic, we are having this problem of Russia and Ukraine, which is creating a new set of challenges for the global economy. And we're also seeing a resurgence of the COVID pandemic in China. I know how critical China is. So that has become another factor slowing down, which may slow down the global economy in 2023. Globally, we are seeing a tightening of financial conditions because of the high inflationary pressures around many countries and around many continents. The disposition of the central bank in many countries is to tighten monetary conditions. And that has led to high interest rates and reversal of capital from emerging economies. And this is also affecting the exchange rate. Because the higher the interest rate in many of these economies, the stronger their currency and the weaker our currency relative to their own currency. So a lot of observers globally have been talking about the risk of global recession. IMF has revised its growth outlook for the global economy as a result of current developments. For Nigeria, there have been all manner of forecasts for the global, for the economic growth. Nigerian government had a forecast of 3.75% growth. African Development Bank is projecting that Nigeria will grow at 3.1%. World Economic Forum is projecting 3.2%. Fitch is projecting 2.5%. The World Bank is projecting 2.9%. The International Monetary Fund is projecting 3% growth for Nigeria. The good thing about this is that all the growth forecasts, at least relatively compared to what is happening in other economies, are quite positive, because in many other economies, they are talking about contraction or they are talking about growth that are less than 2%. So this, to some extent, is positive for Nigeria. Then we are in a transition period, and just as Sheye said, there are concerns about the implications of the political transition for the economy and for businesses, especially SMEs. And some of the features of the political transition period: one, high level of uncertainty, because you are not sure the way things will go socially, politically, and economically. That, of course, is a concern. There's also the risk of post-election violence. You can see that the competition, political competition for offices and for the elections has never been this intense. You can see a lot of passion, you can see a lot of intensity, you can see a lot of, all manner of verbal attacks and all of that. So the political environment is quite heated. So we pray that we don't experience any serious post-election violence, because that could be very disruptive for the economy. There's also the risk of policy changes. If you have a new government, policies may change. Of course, we are going to have new appointments into key positions that may also influence the direction of policy. It may also influence the interaction and relationship with businesses at macro level and at micro level. There's also the prospect of subsidy removal that has both positive and negative implications for the economy and for business. There are also opportunities, because it's all not negative. As we speak, there are opportunities for election and campaign-related contractors. People are providing all manner of services to INEC, to political parties, ballot boxes, ballot papers, logistics, all manner of things people are providing for the INEC and political party, including the media. The media is also having a nice time. At least some of them are having a nice time in terms of patronage in this season. So for some segments of businesses, this is also a good time for them in terms of patronage, coming from election-related spending, not just from the political parties, but also from INEC. Of course, we cannot overemphasize this because each time we talk about the economy, we talk many times from a very gloomy and negative perspective, but we need to remind ourselves that this economy is blessed with a lot of opportunities. That is part of the things that should keep us going. We have a market size of over 200 million people, the largest in Africa, and one of the largest in the world, by the way. Largest economy on the continent. We have young demographics, which is good. It shows the kind of energy that we have. We have very enterprising population. The prospect of resetting the economy under a new administration is also there. We expect that the new administration will have to reform some key areas of the economy so that this economy can function better. We have huge natural resource endowments, and oil prices are also in our favor, although it's a double-edged sword. Normally, it should be impacting positively on our revenue if we are producing enough, and if we don't have all these problems in the oil-producing area, and if you're also not importing too much. But it could also be a negative factor if you look at the amount we are spending on subsidy and the importation of petroleum products. But generally, for any oil-producing country, high oil price should be a plus. So, and this is going to continue at least for the rest of this year, given the fact that the Russia-Ukraine war is not looking like something that will go away within the next 6 to 12 months. The monetary and credit outlook, monetary environment is a bit tight, not even a bit, it is very tight. Interest rates is extremely high. Before the hike of interest, the MPR yesterday, maximum interest rate was interest rates for particularly for SMEs was already around 30% or even above that. And with the hike in MPR to 17.5%, the interest rate may even go higher. Already we have the cash reserve ratio, which is the proportion of banks' deposit that the CBN takes away. That is what we call the cash reserve ratio. It's already at 32.5%. What that means is that for every 100 million naira deposit that a bank has, 32.5% will have to go to the central bank. So the banks will be left with the balance of, I think, around 68% or so. So that is the implication of that. So that reduces the capacity of banks to be able to lend. And the CBN has signaled the fact that it will continue to tighten monetary policy until there is a reversal of the current inflationary pressure. So for those SMEs and any business for that matter that are indebted to the bank, we have a scenario of that is not very favorable. Interest rates will continue to go up. I'm sure between today and tomorrow, those who are indebted to the banks will be getting advice from their banks of a review of interest rates. Don't forget that most of these interest rates are not fixed, they are flexible. And there's always a clause when you are taking this loan that subject to prevailing policy conditions. So the current policy condition is pushing up interest rates. The stock market is also likely to be negatively affected because once interest rates are going up, there will be better returns in the money market. There will be a movement from stock market to the money market. So the stock market is often a victim of a high interest rate regime. So SMEs may need to explore other credit options like cooperatives or development finance. It's not the best at this time unless you are very sure of the kind of returns you are getting on your investment. You go and be taking loans at a very high interest rate. We need to be extremely cautious about going for all these very high interest rate loans. The fiscal outlook is also not exciting. When I say fiscal outlook, what I mean is the general expenditure operations of government. That is what we mean by fiscal outlook. It's not looking very well because the government is still borrowing a lot. We have a budget of 21.8 trillion for 2023. The revenue is only 10.5 trillion. And there's no guarantee that government will get the 10.5 trillion. At best, we get maybe 70% of that. Fiscal deficit is 11.34 trillion, which is extremely high. And if we are not able to meet the revenue target, then the fiscal deficit will go up. Because invariably, we almost fully spent what is to be spent. Then there's a borrowing plan to borrow 8.8 trillion, largely from the domestic market. The debt service, the amount that government will spend to service debt is 6.3 trillion. And if you look at the fact that we are talking about ways and means, that is the money that the CBN borrowed the government. That is what we call the ways and means. It's already at 22.7 trillion. That is what is now with the National Assembly. National Assembly wants to convert it properly into government debt. That is what we call securitization. When that is done, by the time we add it to the 42 trillion, you'll be getting about 77 trillion. So if you have 77 trillion as debt, of course, debt service will have to go up beyond the 6.3 trillion that is stated in the budget. So we may be looking at almost 10 trillion in terms of debt service. We're also expecting that petrol subsidy, we have been told that it will go. We hope that will be feasible because it's not as easy as people talk about it. But if it goes, that will be fine for fiscal operation. But that may also have some measure of backlash on the economy and SMEs. Debt profile, 42 trillion. Debt profile will increase to 77 trillion. I mentioned that. After securitization of the ways and means, debt service to revenue ratio, that's the percentage of our revenue that will be spent on debt service is about 80%. Ways and means is already 22.7%. Now, the significance of all of this for small businesses is that when government is under this kind of pressure, they are likely to be putting pressure on all the government agencies. So if there are government agencies that relate with small businesses or that relate with investors, the implication is that they will also be putting a lot of pressure on SMEs and other investors because they also want to generate revenue. These days, you hardly can distinguish between the revenue generating agencies and even the regular regulatory agencies. All regulatory agencies have now become revenue generating agencies. And they are putting a whole lot of pressure on SMEs and other businesses in form of fees, licenses, regulatory fees, all manner of levies. So that is the implication of this kind of thing for SMEs. A number of business risks that SMEs need to worry about in 2023. Macroeconomic risk, these are risks that are related to changes in inflation, exchange rate, and all of that. These are things that affect businesses adversely. Exchange rate risk, you can see that the exchange rate situation is not favorable to businesses, and it is not likely to get better unless there's a change of policy. And there cannot be a change of policy until the Buhari regime leaves. You have a new regime that prevails on the central bank to change its foreign exchange policy, then there may be a slight improvement in the foreign exchange environment. Inflation risk is there. Inflation is still extremely high. It may not go down that fast because the key drivers of inflation are not abating. Exchange rate, energy costs, insecurity, all of these issues are still there. Regulatory risk, well, that is what business have been grappling with. All these regulators, NAFDAC, SON, all manner of regulators all over the place, the customs and the rest of them, and they could also be a source of risk. which we also need to know how to manage. Policy risk, now that we are changing, there will be a change of government, there may be a change of policy. That also could also present a risk. Then energy costs. High energy cost is a major risk to many investors. So the implication of all of this is that as businesses, we should know which risk apply a lot more to our businesses and have strategies to manage that risk. If we are running a business that is consuming a lot of energy, we need to see how we can reduce our energy costs. If you are running a business that has high foreign exchange content, then we need to look at how we can manage it to reduce our foreign exchange exposure. So that is the importance of recognizing the key business risk that we are exposed to in 2023. And I've talked about political risk, environmental risk. Political risk arises when there's a change of government. Once there is a change of government, particularly those who are doing business with government. If you are a government contractor, this is a time to be extremely cautious in terms of your exposure, because there could be a change of government. Even if it's the same party that comes in, things may not be as they are. The contacts that you have in government may change. There'll be new ministers, new commissioners, and all of that. And we have seen cases where many businesses have lost their money to government because there was a change of government. Sometimes even a change of commissioner, a change of minister, change of PAMSEC can present a whole lot of risk. So in a political transition period, political risk is a very high risk. So exposure to government contracts, whether it's at local government level, at state level, at federal level, we need to be very, very cautious. We need to be sure that there's a guarantee that you get paid before the elections. Public sector transaction risk, I mentioned that if you are having any transaction in public sector, the risk is high at this time, especially if you don't have very, very strong connections. You have global risk, pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war. We all know how that has been panning out and how that has been affecting us. We don't have much control over that, but I believe that the worst of that is probably over. But again, the challenges that they pose may remain. We import a lot of wheat from Ukraine, gas, crude, petroleum products, all of these things, a lot of it also come from Russia. If you are not importing directly from Russia, it could have at least general effect on the global energy prices. Technology risk, we cannot afford to be static in the use of technology. This is a digital age, things are changing by the day. So we need to continually improve on the use of technology, otherwise we'll be left behind. We have seen businesses that have been thrown completely out of gear because they were not, adapting to technology, because technology is disrupting a whole lot of things. So we need to continuously up our game as far as technology is concerned. And technology is evolving by the minute. So we should not be led, all parts of our business chain, value chain, we should make sure that we use modern technology to support it. Credit risk, the higher the interest rate, the higher the credit risk. So we should know the kind of credit we take. People have to be extremely careful. Don't have to be too desperate to go and take a credit that our businesses cannot sustain. It's better for businesses to be suspended than for business to be heavily indebted, Then internally, because it is not all the challenges that businesses face that are external to the business. The way we manage the businesses internally is also important. That is why if you have two businesses, they have the same capital, one will be doing well, the other will not be doing well, in the same environment, in the same market. It is the capacity to manage the business and respond to some of these challenges that I've mentioned that often makes the difference. So therefore, the quality of your management of the business is important. The corporate culture is important. The quality of your human resources is important. The extent to which you adapt technology to your business is important. The physical environment is important. The organizational structure is important. All of these things are what is within our own domain to control. These are not factors that are external to us. These are factors that are internal to us. So our ability to manage this space is important for business resilience. So that is why we are mentioning this. And we have a number of factors that can disrupt businesses. I've mentioned some of these. Foreign exchange can disrupt a lot of businesses. The fluctuation in foreign exchange. That is why, if we can afford it, we should minimize our exposure to businesses that are heavily dependent on foreign exchange. Where it is possible, we should just minimize our exposure, given the volatility and given the way the business environment is. Whatever we can substitute locally, I think we should try to do so to minimize the shocks that our foreign exchange outlook is posing. Monetary policy, we have spoken about that. Credit in the banking system is getting tougher. Interest rate is getting higher. So our exposure, again, we need to be very careful in the way we get exposed, because this year, our interest rate is likely going to remain high for most parts of the year. Foreign exchange problems, exchange rates, problems at the ports and all of that. Energy tariff hike. The electricity companies have given indication that there will be further increase in energy costs. That's electricity. So again, this is telling us about how we manage that aspect of our energy, how we manage, economize energy economics and all of that. Whether we are using diesel or we are using gas or using electricity, whatever we can do to minimize our use of energy, I think we should do it. But we should be mindful of the fact that our cost as far as energy is going to be a bit high, and we can see how we can factor that into our business model in 2023. Issues of insecurity, terrorism, policy inconsistency, multiple taxes, multiple levies. These are elements that we are already experiencing anyway. So in 2023, not much will change as far as some of these problems are concerned. Again, this is about also factoring all of these things into our business model to ensure business resilience. Other changes in taxes, ban on importation, on exports, issues of the ports, challenges of corruption. Again, depending on the businesses you do, there's always a corruption risk in Nigeria. Corruption risk, especially when you are dealing with government agencies. That is something that we need to also have a strategy to manage. This is also about stakeholder management. Physical changes, I've mentioned, I've talked about that, how changes in the political environment can affect a whole lot of things, policy, but more importantly, businesses that are relating or those who are suppliers to government agencies or to government ministries. And respect for contractual obligations, governments don't have a track record of respecting contractual obligations. And there are some institutions that also don't have respect for contractual obligations. So in 2023, in dealing with those kind of business, we have to be extremely careful. Because if they give you a contract, if they give you some terms, they may not be bound by those terms. So as much as possible, we should minimize the exposure to those institutions. Technological innovations, that is very critical. Security agencies, criminal justice system, quality of law enforcement. There are some businesses that have a lot to do with these agencies. Understanding how to deal with these agencies is also very, very important for our businesses, because we don't have a credible criminal justice system. We know the environment in which our security agencies operate, how they operate, and all of that. You know, the quality of law enforcement and rule of law that we have. So these are things that we have to be extremely careful about, particularly if our businesses have exposures to all these agencies. We should have our strategy on how to manage these people. If we need contacts within those systems, I think we should have them in order to minimize their impact on our businesses. And of course, this is also related to what I've been saying. We should have business resilience strategies. How exactly are we going to remain resilient? We need to have products that are functional, that are durable. We need to have strategies for customer support, customized services. We need to have very good brand image. We need, as much as possible, we need cheap capital. I cannot emphasize that enough. We should not go and take a loan of 30% or 40% for any reason. Those things can put a lot of pressure on our businesses. We should invest in technology, and that will help us to reduce costs. We should also use very efficient logistics.
Dr. Muda, sir, I think you need to unmute yourself, sir.
Okay.
All right, we're good now,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking about business resilience. I'm emphasizing this business resilience because we cannot say that because there's problem with Forex, there's problem with insecurity, there's problem at the ports, there's high inflation, that we will not do business. While we'll see how we can resolve that, we should also have a strategy to continue to do our businesses. Because if you have been appointed by shareholders, board of directors to manage a company, you can't go back and be reporting to them that the business environment is tough, therefore you cannot do business. You can't be giving excuses. That is why business resilience strategies are important. How do we navigate our way through all of this while we continue to engage the authorities to make sure that things get better? So we need to deliver high quality services within the limit of whatever constraints that we have. We should have effective sales and marketing to communicate product uniqueness. We have to be very agile and dynamic in our uniqueness. We don't have to be rigid in our approach. We don't have to be rigid in our business model.
I'm sorry to butt in, Dr. Muda. The slides are not being displayed anymore, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. Are they showing now?
Yes, sir. We can see it now.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I was talking about the importance of business resilience. We cannot just surrender and throw up our hands and say that the business environment is bad and we fold up. So that is why I was highlighting all of this. We need to also reduce costs. increase market share by charging lower prices, managing our energy costs very well. We cannot emphasize this energy cost enough, because the cost of energy is increasing no matter from which angle you are looking at it. We also need to worry about being vulnerable to our suppliers. We are running a business. We should not put ourselves in a situation where we will be at the mercy of our suppliers. We should not allow our suppliers to hold us to ransom. So we need to broaden the base of supplies. We should also not allow our customers to hold us to ransom. We should have a strategy to broaden customer base. We should also watch out for the threat of substitution. We should also watch out for the threat of new entry. If you're in any business where there are easy substitution, if you're in any business where people can easily come into that business, then you have to be really up and doing. Because the competition in that kind of business is always extremely very intense. And if you are not careful, you can easily be thrown out of business. So that is one thing that we have to be very careful about. You have to be very creative to remain on top of the business when you have a business that have easy substitutes, or a business that people, every Dick and Harry can come into. So we need to, because in some businesses, margins are always very thin because of competition. We also need to have a strategy to have a niche market. We should understand our market and the unique needs of our customers, to develop low-cost, well-specified products, do strong brand loyalty as much as possible. We should have a relationship that will allow people to be loyal to our brands. And so all of these are just graphics. They are just about statistics of the structure of our macroeconomic environment. This one is about credit to private sector as percentage of GDP, just to show how well is Nigeria connected to its banking system. I'm talking of how businesses are well connected to banking system. If you look at this graph, Nigeria is the lowest in terms of how the financial system is supporting business. That is the essence of this graph here. Credit to private sector, it has been increasing, but not increasing well enough. Credit to government has been increasing at an alarming rate. That is what you call the ways and means, which is causing a whole lot of inflation and already creating a problem now between the executive and the National Assembly, because the money has been spent and they were not appropriated for. So it's raising a lot of constitutional issues. Money supply structure, this is to show the structure of money supply. You can see that currency as a percentage of money supply is just not as a percent. The amount of currency is 2.7 trillion. Total money supply is 49.9 trillion. This is as at September. So when the central bank is saying that there is too much money out of the system, some of us remind them that they should look at data. Currency as a percentage of money supply is just about 5%. So that means that 95% of money is still within the banking system. So all this harassment of innocent citizens, the design of the Naira, seizing people's currency and all of that has no policy significance at all. It's an unnecessary pain that is being inflicted on Nigerians, because currency as a percentage of total money is just about 5%. And we are talking about money supply, you are talking about monetary policy. The totality of money supply that matters. It's not currency. Every economy requires some measure of currency to be able to promote business transactions. This interest rates, you can see it has been going up. And this is inflation, it also has been going up. This is a maturity structure of deposits. Most of our deposits are short-term deposits. So this is one of the major shortcomings of our financial system. Deposits that are in the banking system that is above 1 year tenure is just about 10%. So that makes it difficult for our financial system, particularly the commercial banks, to be able to lend long term. Most of the funds in the commercial banks are short tenure. 90% of these funds are less than a year in tenure. So that is the essence of the, but these are macro issues, which we may just note of. This is the pattern of economic growth. We had a recession in 2020, that's why this is negative. But growth is doing fairly well, just as I noted earlier. These are sectors in terms of their growth based on the Q3 GDP. Sector that did very well are road transport, air transport, financial institutions, telecoms, pharmaceutical and chemical industry, insurance. But the sector that did poorly are the oil refinery and the oil and gas. Agri also performed fairly well, 1.2% GDP growth. But growth generally has not been very, very impressive. Well, this is the structure of our GDP. GDP is the total amount of output in the economy. That is what we call the GDP. So the services sector accounts for 57%. So that means the service sector is bigger than all these other sectors. Industries is 19%, agri is 23%. So these are just for people to note. I will see also that oil sector accounts for 93% of our GDP. Sorry, non-oil sector accounts for 93%, oil sector accounts for 6.3%. This is, I'm not seeing the heading now. Okay, this is also a trend. I'm not seeing it properly on my screen here. Debt service, you can see debt service is also increasing. In 2023, we are spending about 6.3 trillion to service our debt. And just as I said, by the time we factor in the ways and means, which is 22 trillion into it, the amount we'll be using to service debt in 2023 by the end of the year will be getting close to 9 trillion or 10 trillion. And that will almost wipe out the entire revenue. Crude oil price has been increasing. That is good and it could also be bad depending on how we look at it. Crude oil output. Now, our political governance, the outlook, this is also important because we're in a transition period. And we should begin to look at each of the political parties and what they will bring to the table as far as the economy is concerned. Many of them have been promising different kind of things. So we may not be able to go into details because this is political. I don't want to go into that arena. But what is just important is that we should also begin to study the political parties and begin to build our expectations as to what the impact will be on us if any of them emerges as presidents, you know, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If you have APC, what kind of economy are we going to have? If you have the PDP, what kind of economy are we going to have? If you have the Labour Party, what kind of economy are we going to have? That is very important, at least to guide us in some kind of scenario planning. Well, thank you very much. Those are the thoughts I want to share with you. We can now have our session, Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf. I am very sure that everyone would agree with me that that was quite an interesting presentation. For me, it wasn't just a presentation. It was more of a teaching because you've been able to successfully break down some very key financial, business, and economic terms that might be strange to people. Thank you so much. And I can see first in the chat box. Okay, we're moving on to our question and answer segment, like he said earlier. And I can see in the chat box that a number of people have been asking that they will want you to share the slide. So I don't know if you're able to make that available, sir.
I will make it available, no problem.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So we're taking questions now. Please remember that you can drop your questions in the chat box, and you can as well use the raise hand option if you want to speak directly. Kindly drop your questions now, as we have just 15 minutes for the question and answer segment. Thank you. Okay, so let me start with this question that I see here. Jamil is asking, what are the advice that you can give a new government about realistic approaches to ease of doing business in Nigeria for MSMEs?
Well, for a new government, first, we have some obvious challenges that businesses are facing. And that is talking about what you can call the cross-cutting issues, macroeconomic issues. One of the things that we'll expect a new government to deal with are issues of some very important reforms. One key reform is the oil and gas sector reform, because our failure to reform that sector is what has put us in this mess, at least to a large extent. All these fuel queues that we are seeing, oil theft, inability to meet our oil quota, and all of that. The economy has been bleeding profusely on account of our failure to reform the oil and gas sector. So reforming the oil and gas sector is very key. And when I say oil and gas sector, I mean the downstream sector. It has to do with refineries, petroleum distribution, marketing, transportation, all that. We need to fix it. We don't want this economy to go down, because it's putting a lot of pressure on us. We need to also fix our foreign exchange policy environment. The kind of foreign exchange policy regime we have now is one of the biggest problems we have in this economy. There's a whole lot of corruption in that space. There's a whole lot of absence of level playing field. There's a whole lot of transparency problems. And above all, the foreign exchange environment is not supporting, it's not encouraging the supply of foreign exchange into the economy. It's discouraging exports. It's discouraging FDI. It's discouraging foreign portfolio flows. So although some people are benefiting from it, you know, all this round tripping, they move money from the official window to the parallel market window. Many of them have become billionaires, but it's hurting the economy. So we need to fix the foreign exchange space very, very quickly. We're also losing revenue. CBN is selling about $20 billion annually at around 435. So on each dollar, we are losing about 150 naira. Multiply that. We are losing about between 3 to 4 trillion that normally should have gone into the Federation account. Because this 435, the end users are not getting it at 435. They are getting at 700, 680, 750, 800. So who is now taking advantage of this difference? So the kind of subsidy problem you have in petrol, we're also having it in the foreign exchange. So reforming the foreign exchange market is very critical. It has an investment effect. It has a revenue effect. Then we need to also reform our power sector. I know people complain about electricity tariff and all of that, but we need to ensure that those who are invested in the sector are also able to recoup their investments. If they are not able to recoup their investments, then the power sector cannot grow. So we can't run away from this, what do you call it now, cost-reflective tariff, but we need to emphasize that the electricity companies have to ensure that everybody is metered. They have to be transparent in their metering, in their billing, and all of that. So these are some of the reforms that needs to take place, and there has to be engagement. Apart from dealing with these macroeconomic issues, the new government will engage with each sector to know what problems are affecting each sector. so that they can take it up from there.
All right,
So
sir.
there's still a whole lot, but let me just stop there.
All right, thank you so much for that response. I'd also like to ask, I mean, looking at the spate of insecurity, kidnapping, banditry, I know the central bank governor has said quite a lot on putting so much into place in order to mitigate the effect of all of these in the country. But how do you see this affecting the economy and MSMEs?
Well, the insecurity is a problem for everybody. And we can only continue to prevail on, because it is only government that can deal with the problem of insecurity. So we should be talking about funding for the security agencies, ensuring that there's value for money, even among the security agencies, the things they buy, ensuring the use of technology in fighting this insecurity, and collaborating with other countries. If we have to use mercenaries, so be it. There are countries who are more experienced in dealing with terrorism than we are. This is not a question of pride. We have a problem to solve. It is not beyond solution. So that is what I think. We just need to continue to press on the government to change its strategy, particularly the new government, in dealing with this problem.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Another question here says that you spoke about corruption as one of the major business risks, and you advised that it should be managed when dealing with government agencies. So somebody is asking, how do we manage corruption with government agencies when your invoices are not paid unless you par with more than 40% of your fees?
Well, that is a very tough one. I appreciate the point that the participant is making. But fighting corruption is not easy for individuals, especially when individuals are as vulnerable as he is. I've seen instances where you want to clear your container, and the customs will say that
Exactly.
they have intelligence that you are carrying something, even when you have been cleared properly at the port.
True.
So when you weigh the cost and benefits, this is not to excuse corruption. As a business person, you just have to take some decisions. But fighting corruption is a collective thing. It starts from the leadership, and it also starts from whatever associations we are. We need to prevail on the governments. We need to do a lot of advocacy, and we need to hold our leaders accountable at all levels.
All right.
You have to demand transparency in the way they manage the resources and in the way they deal with us as stakeholders. So it's a collective stakeholder engagement issue. It's not an issue that individuals can easily tackle.
All right, Dr. Muda, thank you for that response. So another person is asking, how best can SMEs cushion the effect of inflation on sales and business growth, given the risk outlined with possible interest rates for loans?
Well, to reduce the risk of business failure, I think, and also reduce costs, I've outlined quite a number of measures. I talked about issues of technology. I talked about issues of also exploring other funding options, that are not as expensive as what the banks or all these online people will give. I also talked about possibility of also, ensuring that you come to the level of those who are buying your products. In many environments, for many companies now, we are seeing what we call sachetization of products, reducing products into sachets to increase the access or affordability, and manage costs, energy costs, personnel costs, and all of that. If you look at our entire ecosystem, there should be ways in which we can reduce costs. So these are some of the things I think. I appreciate the fact that the environment is tough. But if the environment is tough, we also need to be creative, particularly in dealing with our cost elements. We need to look at it and see if there are extra fats that you can cut down, we cut it down.
All right, sir. And I think Okay, let me take this question before I ask my next questions. This person is saying, what role do you think the redesign of the currency will play in enhancing trade and commerce?
The design of the currency is not going to play any role. If anything, it has disrupted trade and commerce, especially the way the central bank has been going about it. It's a major disruption, and I don't think that Nigerians deserve this kind of treatment. The CBN has been most unfair to Nigerians, particularly those who are in trade and commerce, particularly the SMEs, particularly our rural dwellers. The CBN has been most unfair, and I am hoping that at least somebody somewhere will see reason and ensure that these things is the deadline is extended. The whole redesigning has not brought any significant value, either from a policy perspective or from a business perspective. It has only served to disrupt the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians, which is extremely unfortunate. We are being told that this is to target politicians who want to buy votes. For goodness sake, if you want to chase politicians, must we now subject Nigerians to this kind of pain, to this kind of agony? Innocent Nigerians who are struggling to make a living. So to answer the question, it has no value at all. If anything, the value is negative, both for the economy and for businesses.
All right, Dr. Muda, I'm trying to see. Somebody's asking, in foreign business transaction, what are the best ways to transfer money to business partners abroad?
Well, I'm not in the finance space, but I know that you have the letters of credit that you open normally. So you take your Form M, open your letters of credit, talk to people in the Forex department of banks, and transfer. But I also know that there are all manner of ways in which the SMEs are moving money. You have seen instances where people pay to some people's Naira accounts here, and their products are supplied abroad. So there are all manner of creative ways, especially because of the way the CBN has created all manner of bottlenecks in the foreign exchange environment. So people have been, devising all manner of ways, to transfer money. But basically, through the banking system, is to open letters of credit, transfer money, and you have your domiciliary account, you transfer from the domiciliary account, and all of that. If you have partners abroad who have a Naira account here, and they have a way of transferring it, you pay to the Naira account, your Naira, and they ship your products. So those are some of the ways in which the SMEs have been going about international trade transactions.
All right, sir. I want to add this question because we have about 5 minutes, roughly 5 minutes to the end of this question and answer segment. And we see quite a number of activities going on in the country and in the African continent. Just some days ago, the Lekki Deep Sea Port was inaugurated by the president. And of course, we also expect a commissioning of the Dangote refinery by the end of the third quarter of 2023. So do you think, what are the impacts or the effect of this Dangote refinery on the economy?
No, the impact is a very good one. First, at least rather than be importing petroleum products, we'll be able to source petroleum products domestically. I mean, if anything, at least that will cut the cost of freight. But we also need to moderate our expectations from that refinery, because people feel that because it's coming from Dangote, we are going to be buying fuel at 165. It's not going to happen. So Dangote himself has borrowed money. He has all sorts of investors. They're expecting returns on investment. So it's not a government agency. It's not a government parastatal. So he too is going to sell to also make money. And it's in the export processing zone. So we also had the option of exporting the products. But the advantage is that it's closer to us. Secondly, The NNPC is also a shareholder. The NNPC has 20% there. So the NNPC also has some influence to be able to get supply locally. So to that extent, we'll be able to source our PMS, diesel, AGO, petrochemicals, fertilizer, all of those things, we'll be able to source them locally, which is a very, very big advantage, for the Nigerian economy. Then Lekki deep sea ports, the advantage is that it's going to allow bigger vessels, they call them Muda vessels, bigger vessels to berth at our shores. Right now, what you have in Tinkan and Apapa cannot accommodate big vessels. The big vessels will stay somewhere offshore. Smaller vessels will go and evacuate and come to shore. But with this deep sea port, bigger vessels can come. And when you are moving things in big volumes, you enjoy what you call economies of scale, and that brings down cost. The only worry about the Lekki deep sea port is the traffic. And I'm sure that government is looking at that, because I don't know how they can evacuate cargo on that Lekki corridor, because the place is already heavily congested. But government is looking at it. I mean, they're looking at the option of using barges. We have a coastal road and all of that. So, but it's a positive development for our economy.
All right, thank you so much. I want to believe that there are no more questions after now, because all right, thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf. It was quite an insightful session this evening. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, at least, to be with you. I will send you the slides so that you can share it to all the participants.
All right, sir.
So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this engagement. Thank you.
We are privileged to have you, sir.
Yeah. And have a great evening. Thank you.
All right, quite an insightful one there. We're moving on to the next thing on our agenda for tonight. And we have some people, some business partners who will be speaking with us. We have a representative from NERMS, and we have Mr. Larry. Mr. Larry will be speaking for the next 10 minutes. Mr. Larry, can we have you? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you. Please go ahead. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Larry.
Yeah, my name is Larry Olani. I have some slides. Is it possible for me to share?
It's fine, but you have 10 minutes, sir.
I will do my best. It's really short, but I will do my best. Okay, thank you so much. Let me see. Share screen. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Yes, please.
Okay, good. So it's really kind of gloomy listening to Dr. Yusuf, but actually it's also very educative and very informing for SMEs to know what to really look forward to in 2023. And I believe with this, many of us can prepare ourselves for what is ahead of us. And I really hope that 2023 will be a better year for our businesses. So quickly, I will just talk about, Dr. Yusuf mentioned a lot of things, a lot of risk that we face as entrepreneur, political, credit, public sector, transactions, environment, global risk, and so on. And of course, he mentioned technological risk. And many of these risks, there's nothing we can do about them. Some of them, there are nothing we can really do about them. Government policies, we can't change the policies so much, even though we can only hope for the best. We can't single-handedly eradicate corruption, okay, but we can do our best to reach what we can, okay? We can control how a pandemic comes out and how it is curbed or treated, but we can just hope that God will keep protecting all of us. So these are things we can change. But of course, it mentions some other things too, like internal risk in our businesses and things we can change. And one of those ones is technology risk. Okay, we can change that and we can improve on that. And I will just talk a little bit about what we have today that could help some of our businesses. I will try and be fast. The time is really short, but I will do my best. So my name is Lande Olani. I'm the founder of Soft Structures. We build, design, and develop applications that help businesses to scale. Okay, so if you're looking for efficient ways to do your business, to make it easier, to monitor what you are doing, to see the trend in your business, to curb corruption, to have oversight, to see what is selling, what is not selling, what you need to do differently, what you need to improve on, we have all kinds of application for that. And one of them is norms, which I will be talking about today. At Soft Structure, we have 4 major products right now. We have Scout for Job. It's not for people here, but some of you may need it in the near future. It's for you, it's help you to look for people you want to hire, good staff, and so on. Tax Light is another business management application. It helps you to manage your business in a different way. It's actually for project management, HR management, and payroll management, and so on. Streets is another application that came from our stables, and what it does is that it's help you to see what is happening in your neighborhood, and you can disseminate information easily and so on. It's a platform where you can advertise your product to, and you can reach the right targets for your product. And today I'll be talking about norms, and I will try and be fast about it. It's spelled NEURMS, but it's pronounced norms. And what it does basically is that it's application for running business. I can't run through some of my slides, so I will just try my best to talk quickly about some of these things. Okay, technology change how we live, how we do what we do. Okay, technology has been with us for a while now, and it has been improving our lives. Okay, and it's make us more efficient, more successful, and more purposeful. Okay, and today having technology in our day-to-day life, it's something that we don't even see any big deal about. We can see it in the cars we drive, in the house we live, in the phones in our hands, and so on. Technology has changed a lot of things in what we do. Okay, but one of the things we have noticed is that technology, it should be inclusive, adaptive, and progressive. Inclusive in the sense that no one should be left behind. And I noticed that many entrepreneurs, when they start their business, they do everything they can to make this business flourish. But one thing they always don't do very well is to include technology in their plans. Okay, it should be adaptive. So what it means is that as your business is growing, as things are changing, you are supposed to continually use technology to push many of these things. In fact, it has been proven that when there's a gap between development and underdevelopment, to break that gap quickly, technology can make it happen very fast. And the same thing happens in our businesses too. And it can be progressive, okay? So it's always give us new ways to do things, a new efficient way to move things around and so on. That is what technology is. And many people in business today, especially entrepreneurs, they always forget this. And they always think that, oh, when I make a lot of money, we will have technology to it. But that is a big mistake. And that is one of the reasons that led us to creation of norms. Now, like Dr. Yusuf said, there are so many problems that faces entrepreneur. He has broken down the fiscal issues in Nigeria, how it affects us. There are still some other things too. Like before now, many people that have tried to use technology before, they found out that many of the applications out there that could help your business is that they are pricey, they are not really supporting your business, or they are not designed for our environment, they are not scalable, and then, you know, they bring something that works very well in the US or in the UK, but when it gets there, you realize that it doesn't really fit what we do here. Okay. Another major problem is that many of these things, we have to pay for them in foreign exchange. And again, that puts a lot of pressure in on our businesses. And when you really look at it, I don't think it makes so much sense when you are trading in Nigeria, you are collecting money in Naira, but the technology you are using to drive your business, you are using the foreign exchange to buy it. This we need to look at and we need to change, okay? And then many times when you buy ready-made from abroad, you find out that many of the features on this technology are useless for you. You can't even use them, or you don't know what they are meant for, okay? These are some of the problems that we face every day, okay? Now, we sat down with some entrepreneurs and we look at this and we try to see, okay, how do we solve this problem? Many people have tried solving these problems in the past, but many of these solutions really did not work for them. And therefore, we think of what we can do. We sat down with entrepreneurs, we look at what they've been doing, we look at what they need, and we created this application, we call it NORMS. The E there is silent, and what it does is that it helps you to manage your sales, basically. That is what it does. Not just the end point where you're selling, but from when you order your product or when you manufacture your product, you put it in your warehouse, you distribute it to your outlets or to your vendors, and then to when you sell it and the staff that work on it. These are the things that this technology help you do. It's very simple to use, it's very scalable, and it's very affordable. And the beautiful thing is that you don't even need to invest on a lot of hardware to use it. It works on the existing hardware that you have already, if you have existing hardware. If you don't, you can use it on devices as like your regular phone. You don't need to go buy a new set of hardware to be able to use this. And it's very, very easy to use. It's one of the best in class from what we have found out. It's in the market now. We launched it about 3 months ago. It's in the market and a lot of people are using it. The feedback has been fantastic. And we can actually do more with you at maybe if we can have some other opportunities, some other events where we can talk about some of the features of this technology in details and what it can do for you, okay? And I've just tried my best to talk more about this. You can visit our website and you can look at what we are doing. Our website is neurms.com. And from there, you can see what we can do. At the end of this presentation, I put some of our slides there. I mean, it's a phone number and an email that you can reach us on. And from there, we can talk more about some of these things, and then we can see how we can help you do more with your business. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Larry Olanio. Time well managed, I must say. Thank
I am
you.
not happy, but I'll let this.
But you know, we're conscious of time. Thank you so much. We're grateful that you're able to manage that time. So coming up next, we have another representative from My Stash. Christiana, you have the next 5 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. Thank you. Insightful session so far. Thank you for having me and for having My Stash here. So quickly, my name is Christiana. I'm a co-founder at My Stash. And I want to speak to you all briefly about our product for SMEs, which is called Profit. So that's what you see on your screen right now while I'm speaking. So Profit is a free app that helps SMEs to solve the number one problem that they face. Now, if I ask all of you, what is the number one issue, number one problem that small businesses face? I'm sure that over 90% of you would say lack of capital or lack of funds. Yes, I'm very sure of that. But that is not it. That's not the number one issue that SMEs face. The number one issue that SMEs face is how to manage the little funds that they already have. That is the number one problem all SMEs face the world over, especially in Africa, right? And that's why we built the My Stash Profit app, to help you manage your business finances. Now, how does the Profit app work? When your customer pays you, the app would automatically separate your profit from the total money that was paid to you. And then the app will save that profit in dollars. Now, why in dollars? To protect the value of that money from devaluation. And this is very important for those, particularly for those that, that pay vendors in dollars, right? Now, also the MyStash app, you can use it to transfer money to your vendors or your business partners abroad. Someone asked that question during the guest session, that how can you transfer money abroad, right? So with the MyStash app, once you can save your profits in dollars, you can send that money to your vendors or your partners abroad in dollars from the app. And furthermore, you can earn interest when you don't touch your saved profits for 3 months or more, right? So these are all the benefits and more that you get from using the MyStash Profit app. Like I said, it's free to use. You don't pay any fees or whatever to use the Profit app. Now, we have some businesses in this community already using our app, and we are thankful for that. I urge you all, I'm going to share a link quickly. If you have questions or anything you want to ask us, about the app, how to use it and all that, just fill in this form I'm sharing right now in the chat box. I will get back to you. So I don't want to take time. So just fill in the form so we can get back to you and have one-on-one sessions with you and tell you how to go about using the app and all of that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Christiana. I believe the other person who asked the question about making a transfer in foreign currency, in dollars or whatever, would find MyStash really helpful. Thank you. So we're moving on to the next thing, and I'm going to call on Mercy. Amazing Mercy, please give us the announcement and giveaways or whatever you have for us this evening.
All right, thank you, good evening, everyone, and thank you for staying through. It's been an awesome session so far. So very quickly, we announced in the community, of course, I know that we have quite a number of the community members there, and I'm so happy to announce that I have picked randomly from the participants tonight, and we have Mr. Femi Oefeso, we have Janet Ajibade, we have Pamela Odon, Olufumilayo Ewajesu, Bumi Oyeleye, David Shimezie, Jamil Abdulatif Taiwo, Jamil Ismail Ahmad, Samira Zailani, and Awa Dauda. So please, I'll be contacting you in the community. You are some have won a free video clip on how to write a compelling business plan. Some have won data top up, and of course, some have won a free business session with a business mentor. So we look forward to having you on all our other sessions. If you want to catch a replay of this session tonight or any of the past business growth series, you can check our YouTube channel, that is MSME Africa on YouTube. I will drop the link here after I speak. And of course, you should join us in the community for all our awesome sessions. We have quite a number of sessions. We have our enterprise chats. The last session that we had on Wednesday is really superb. We spoke extensively about AI and digital tools. So stick around. We love you. Thank you for always supporting MSME Africa. We'll see you some other time. So back to you, Aramide.
Thank you so much for the information, Mercy. Thank you. All right, this is where we draw the curtains here on a business growth series. We've come to the end of the January edition of the business growth series. It was quite an amazing time. I could see a lot of people saying insightful session. Thank you so much. And let's remember all of the strategies that Dr. Muda Yusuf has spoken about. Remember, he also spoke about policies that might affect the running of businesses, particularly because we are in a time where a new administration is coming in a few months. Don't forget to get your PVCs because collection is ending pretty soon. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night rest. Good night. See you next time.
Thank you for joining.